This essay is very unusual, and you might be wondering why I assigned Victoria Cain's essay, The Art of Authority, about the Natural History Museum. I wish we could go and check out the Natural History Museum so you could think about this essay a little bit in context of what the Natural History Museum looks like. But if you've ever been to the Natural History Museum in New York City, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It is a bunch of preserved animals on display, and skeletons and fossils and other things created. Who's doing this work and what is the value of this work has often come into my mind when visiting the Natural History Museum. If I'm not spending all my time in the butterfly exhibit when that's going on, that's really cool. That's in the spring, and that's something to really see. But this isn't an advertisement for the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. But Cain's argument, her essay, is about how did we shift from the idea that scientific knowledge is about replication and display of what we see in the natural world to something internal, invisible, and understood through processes and scientific evaluation. It's a huge shift. And her essay, I'm looking at it here, says that over the 1920s and 1940s, over a period of 20 years, arguments inside the museum between biologists and between naturalists and taxidermy experts and museum staff and public awareness of changes in science influenced greatly the role that taxidermy and model makers had over their incredibly high pay and their incredibly good jobs that they had at the Natural History Museum. Now, why did I assign this? I think this essay is really great reading because it shows you how argumentation creates knowledge. It creates reality. So the other readings that we looked at in this section, where we have James Crosswhite's Argument as Inquiry, George Dreyfus's debate as knowing, or let me get the exact title here. George Dreyfus is Debate a Mode of Inquiry, which goes with Crosswhite Argument as a Mode of Inquiry. And Inninger Argument as Method really shows that there's something here to argument being a lot more than correspondence with fact, correspondence with the extant world, correspondence with things that exist and are verified through other means. We see in Cain's example argumentation taking on the role of changing what counts as science. The influence can't be simple causality. It can't be, oh, we discovered we're wrong and now it's time to do it the right way. That's not it at all. What it is long discussions, long arguments and justification as to what counts as scientific knowledge. Is it the study of systems and internal workings of animals and how they react in their environment? Or is it mirroring and showing what these animals look like in nature for the public to see? Is it getting their coat exactly right? Is it getting their skin right? Is it being able to draw them and put paintings and other kind of art of what they look like in their natural habitat? Is that what counts? This is a really interesting essay for that reason. It's hard for us to think of science and scientific work and knowing something about animals in the world as being anything other than biology. Very difficult for us to do that. And in this essay, you see how these people made pretty compelling arguments for the time. You might not agree with them, of why the taxidermists and why the model makers are the people who are doing the real work of the museum, and people who are doing the more what we would call today serious scientific work, going out looking at how animals function in their environment and in their ecosystem, were really kind of behind on making that argument as to why they should be supported. So what I want you to do with this essay, and what I want you to think about in this essay, is to think about it in the terms of what processes or what things have you noticed that have altered, not because someone won an argument, but because of argument itself. What ways of thinking have altered because of the presence of an argument about who deserves what role, who deserves what compensation, who deserves to be in charge of things, and whose knowledge, whose process, whose organization, whose thing they do is the most important one. You can think about that. Maybe you want to put a little something about that in your response. I think that this examination of this one moment in the history of a museum shows how much is at stake when we argue. The very definition of how we understand, or the understanding of how we understand animals and the relationship of them to us in the natural world was changed through a battle about who should receive museum funding and attention, who's doing real scientific work here that warrants resources to pursue and to continue. And I think that's just a fantastic thing to think about. I wonder what analogies you think of, or if there are analogies out there you can think of. I look forward to seeing what you say about this essay. It's a really interesting one. If you have a chance to read it, it is published in the journal Science in Context, Cambridge University Press, April of 2011, Victoria Cain's The Art of Authority, in the Museum of Natural History. And in a 20-year period, a lot can change. And it's not that one side won or didn't win, but argument itself changed our relationship about how we talk about science and natural history.